All right, guys, back for more shenanigans.
Yeah, so we got so much positive feedback in the last video that we feel like, I guess we're gonna stick to this format and we're just gonna be talking about life. We're gonna be talking about different things that you guys ask about in the comments. And in this video, we're gonna be talking about specifically one comment that I wanna address, that somebody asked, how much do we think we need to earn if we were to move back to New York City as nurses? But firstly, I need to mention that when we move back to New York City, the plan is not to work as nurses. The plan is to
For the
live
most
off
part.
right? The plan is to live off the equity that we have from selling our home, as well as, you know, some of the income that we get from our business. And for those of you that are always asking what our business is, it's the spreadsheets that we sell on our website. It's the income that we generate from YouTube, the income that we generate from sponsorships, and several other forms of revenue that we receive from our business. And this is all around content creation. But let's go back to this topic.
We need your help, guys.
Yeah. So I went over these numbers though, and the latest numbers that I've been able to get about the median home prices in every single borough of New York City is from 2021. Let's say you're living in Manhattan.
He's pulling out his spreadsheets, guys.
Yeah, I have my spreadsheet here. So at the moment, I mentioned this so many times in every other video, but Monica and I, we paid $697,000 for our house. And our monthly mortgage payments, this includes our HOA dues, this includes our homeowner's insurance, the property taxes, and the mortgage itself, was about $4,100 a month. Average for someone who has a 3.3% interest rate on their mortgage. Keep that in mind. We currently have a 3.3% interest rate, but when we move back to New York, if we choose to buy, which is what we're not going to choose to do.
Not right away.
But if we choose to buy, and if you want to buy in Manhattan, right? New York, the median home price as of 2021 is $1.165 million. That's $1,165,000.
Which I honestly think it's a low number.
It is a pretty low number.
That's probably like a shoebox.
Yeah, so when I looked at the monthly mortgage payment on something like that, when you take, you know, your property tax and a 20% down payment into account, you're looking to spend about $7,398 per month. And that's with the current interest rates of around, I think it's like 6.6%. In order to be able to afford to live in Manhattan, you need to be making an income of $25,441 per month.
Monthly.
Per month. And that's to have the equivalent of what we pay into our mortgage now as a percentage of our income. Our current mortgage is about 29% of our take-home pay. And if we want to have 29% of our take-home pay in New York go towards our mortgage, that means that we need to make $25,441 per month. Now, let's go to the other boroughs. Let's say we decide to live in Brooklyn. If we want to live in Brooklyn, the median home price as of 2021 is $941,000. The mortgage payments on that would be $6,277. The income that you need to earn in order to afford a home like that, it's $21,586 in order for it to be 29% of your take-home pay. Next, we have Queens. If you want to live in Queens, the median home price in Queens as of 2021 is $718,000. It's much lower than Manhattan and Brooklyn, but your mortgage payment is still going to be $5,161, and you still need to earn $17,748. Now, if you look at the Bronx is the least expensive on the list, right?
For a good reason.
For a good reason. Those of you that live in New York City will understand. But the median home price in the Bronx is $575,000, which is actually pretty affordable, right? And the mortgage payment on that with the current interest rates is $4,446. That means that you need to earn an income of $15,289 in order to have 29% of your income going towards your mortgage. However, one thing that I should say though is like, the more you earn, the less of an impact those larger amounts are gonna have on your pockets, right? So like,
yeah, obviously.
If let's say you're making $25,000 a month and you spend $7,398 on your mortgage payments, you still have about $18,000 left every month. So that 29%, it doesn't feel as bad at all as someone who's earning a lot less that has 29% going towards mortgage.
Okay, this Manhattan prices, you said that 1.1, because
Yeah.
we're really striving to move back to Manhattan because that's where I'm from. I'm from Harlem. Jason's from Brooklyn, but we really want to move back to Manhattan because it's kind of like it's like the middle ground.
Yeah.
It's closer to the rest of the other boroughs. It's also closer to Jersey. I have a lot of family in Jersey. So the 1.1, babe, does that include the HOA?
Yeah, so I had to, I just inserted like a $500 per month HOA, which is really low for Manhattan.
I've never seen HOA for $500 in Manhattan. Like every time I look at Zillow, if it's like a luxury building, even if it's like an old building, like multi-unit, it's almost always at the very least like 1,000. Like that's low ball in it. It's like 1,500.
That's very true.
Yeah, if you go on Zillow or Redfin, they let you filter out how much HOA you could put in. I think it's like, for Zillow, the highest would be like $2,000, which is like insane. And when you put that filter in, you see like one apartment for sale. So yeah, that's that. So you guys are probably wondering, how did we afford to live in Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the numbers here, and they're like, okay, so how did you guys even live there? Because I lived in Manhattan, I lived in Harlem for at the very least a decade. And I lived with my mom for like 9 years in Harlem. And then eventually when Jason and I became nurses, we got our own place. We got a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 850 square feet apartment, and it was a walk-up. And
when we got this apartment, at the time, because New York did away with this, or is currently doing away with this, but we had to put a security deposit down, the first month's rent, and the last month's rent.
I didn't say how much it was. I didn't say how much rent we were paying. It was $2,500, which was a steal.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Because we moved in December.
Yeah, but okay, so let me go over that numbers. Okay, so we had to put the first month deposit down, the last month deposit, a security deposit as well. That came up to $7,500 before we could actually move in. And, you know, we thought that was actually, for us, we're like, man, this is a lot of money. Because at the time, we were making about, I think it was like anywhere from $9,000 to $10,000 per month after taxes in New York City as nurses. So, you know, just imagine $7,500 going towards that first month of rent. And then, yeah, we were paying about $2,500 per month on rent, which was, in our opinion, like, wow, we got a great deal on this. So when we got that apartment, we secured it for like 18 months. I believe it was 18 months.
I remember we broke our lease.
Yeah, and we lived about 3 blocks from Central Park, which is why we chose that location. And it was only 2 blocks from our daughter's school.
I think our priority at that time was our daughter's school. It was only like 2 blocks away.
And she was going to a gifted and talented school.
Which was the number 2. It was ranked number 2 in all of New York City. Yeah. It's a public school.
Yeah.
So she had to take a test to get into that school.
And if you guys know anything about New York City, you know that the public school system is awful.
Most city schools are awful.
That's true. But the reason we ended up getting our daughter tested to get into a gifted and talented school is because at least we knew that she would get the proper education without us having to go private. And that's what happened when we came to California also. They have gifted and talented programs out here in California. So as soon as we thought about moving to California, that's one of the first things we looked at is like, okay, what kind of schools are we gonna look for so that our daughter can go to a good school and it can be like the equivalent of a gifted and talented school that she had in New York. And thankfully,
that's why we moved to Roseville.
Yeah. So Roseville, even if they don't have gifted and talented classes, the school system in Roseville is amazing. However, our daughter did get into a gifted and talented program in Roseville. That helped as well. But so in New York, we just found out recently that they're doing away with the gifted and talented program.
Which is so upsetting because, so we don't want to put our son in a private school. There you go. And the reason for this is because my daughter's school, that gifted and talented school in Manhattan, it was a pretty diverse school. The kids that went to that school were from different walks of life. And I'm not just talking about the diversity when it comes to like racial and ethnic backgrounds. I'm talking about socioeconomic background. She had a classmate that lived all the way from Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. It took them like an hour just to go to school. And then she also had classmates that lived right there by Upper West Side. And one time, one of her classmates invited us to his birthday party. So I said, okay, you know, this is our daughter's one of her good friends. So I went. Jason was working at that time. And we went to go eat at Dallas BBQ. And after that, they were like, okay, we're gonna go to our place and do a little bit of a play date. And so we go to this building, and first of all, there was a doorman, okay? My mom's apartment, our apartment, we don't have a doorman, okay? So I'm like, okay. And then so we take the elevator, and when I entered her apartment, my jaw just dropped. Like, I couldn't believe this kid went to our daughter's school. So then I found out that that family was actually like really wealthy, like multi-millionaires. So I asked the dad, I was like, why didn't you put your son in a private school? And he said, if I can put him in a public school, like, why not? Right? That's the way he thought of it.
I mean, I guess what Monica's trying to say is that we want our kids in public school because we want them to be surrounded by so much diversity. And I'm talking about not just diversity of like races, but also diversity of socioeconomic status. I'll give you an example. Our daughter had a classmate whose parents, the mother was a director for Bayer, you know, the pharmaceutical company.
Oh yeah,
And-
I remember her.
Yeah, and her dad, the girl's dad, was an attorney at like a
Immigration attorney.
an immigration attorney.
Yeah.
And they were both extremely well off. And they had their daughter in a private school before they put her in the gifted and talented program. And I remember the father telling me that the reason why they pulled her out is because they just kept wanting more and more and more money out of them. And they didn't understand how they were already paying $30,000 a year in tuition. And in addition to that, the school kept asking for more money for activities and events. And he said that the education that his daughter was getting from the gifted and talented school was much better than the education she was getting from the private school. So just to go off tangent, that's part of the reason why we would rather have our kids on a public school system.
But even if we could afford to go private, babe, would
Yeah.
you still put our son in a private school?
I personally, I would not want to.
Yeah, I don't
wouldn't.
want that.
Yeah.
Like
I would rather buy the cheapest home or live in the cheapest apartment and in the nicest neighborhood with the best public school system and put him in there than to put him in a private school.
So we said that we eventually moved out on our own and got our own apartment, which was like $2,500 a month. It was 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 850 square feet. It was a walk up too, okay, first of all. But before that, we lived with my mom, right, babe?
Yeah.
And my mom, she's not wealthy, she's not rich. And how can she has a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath in Harlem. And how was she able to afford this apartment? It's because it was through public housing. So it's not necessarily Section 8, but it's something close to it. And initially, it wasn't income-based. They recently made it income-based because they raised her rent this year. So when we first moved into that apartment in 2006, I believe her rent was $500 or $600.
$520.
It was $520 in 2006. Okay, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. This is on Fifth Avenue in Harlem. And every year when she renewed her lease, it would go up in little by little increments. But it's still pretty affordable. So now it's currently at what did she say? It was like $1,100 a month,
Yeah.
which is still pretty good in Harlem and in Manhattan.
Now I want to compare, like, I don't have the prices off the top of my head, but I want to compare some of the homes and the affordability out here in the Sacramento region, right?
We're not in Sacramento right now. We just came back from Oakland.
Yeah,
so-
we just dropped off
So
my
if you're
mom.
looking, whatever you're seeing in the background, it's not Sacramento.
Yeah, we just drove about an hour and 20 minutes to
Yeah.
Oakland from our house to drop my mom off at my brother's place. She's gonna stay there for about a week. And she's been staying with us. She's gonna end up staying with us for about 2 months or so before she goes back to New York. Anyway, so if you're thinking about moving to the Sacramento region, then there are many different cities you can move to surrounding Sacramento. You don't have to live in Sacramento. But if you live in Sacramento, there are plenty of apartments that you can rent that start as low as like $1,600, $1,700 for a 1 bedroom. And if you think about it, let's say you have our income, right? And we're making like $14,100. As an individual, let's say you're just a single person, you're definitely gonna be making more than half of what we earn, because we only work less than 20 hours per week. You're likely not gonna be working 20 hours a week, because your goal when you move to Sacramento, when you start working in one of these high-paying hospitals, is probably to either pay down debt, save your money, or invest it, right? And if that's your goal, right, you're probably gonna be working at least like 32 hours per week, which means you're gonna be bringing home around $4,000 every pay period, just around, maybe more than that. So on a monthly basis, you're going to have anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000 a month. And if you're living in a 1 bedroom apartment and you're paying, let's say, $2,000, that's gonna be about 22% of your income, something like that. So it's easily affordable because you're gonna have like $6,000 to $8,000 left over after you make your monthly rent, right? And you can easily invest that money in other places. But let's say you want to buy a house, okay? Homes have gotten more expensive in the Sacramento region. When we bought our home, again, we bought it for $697. The average home in our location is now around $900,000. If you want to save more money on a home, you can move to places like Elk Grove, Roseville. Roseville, however, it's getting high as well.
It's getting high. I think I highly recommend Elk Grove. Elk Grove, it's so much closer to my hospital. So I work at Kaiser South Sac. Most of my coworkers live in Elk Grove. I have a few coworkers that live in Stockton, but I highly recommend Elk Grove. If you have kids, there's some parts of in Elk Grove that have really good schools. Plus, Elk Grove is really diverse. It's far more diverse than Roseville, Rockland, Folsom. So if you're a commuter, okay, a lot of people like to drive to work and they don't mind driving at least, 20 minutes to get to work. Elk Grove is 10 minutes away from my job.
Yeah.
I have coworkers that live 5 minutes away that live in Elk Grove, 5 minutes away from my job. So rent will be a lot cheaper over there too.
Yeah.
And it's still a developing town. They're building a lot more homes. They're building they just built a Costco there. So it's developing just as much as Sacramento.
And they have this huge shopping area. It's called Delta Shores. It's enormous. They have a Walmart. They have Chick-fil-A over there. They have a lot of restaurants. Panda Express.
Movie theaters too.
Jamba, they have a movie theater out there. Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, they have a lot of stores, okay? Just put it like that. And it's just a very diverse area too. So there's more diversity there than a place like Roseville.
So when we lived in Roseville, it's predominantly white neighborhood, right? But we noticed there was a lot of Indians and there were some Filipinos. But in Elk Grove, there's like the Nigerians, there's the Fijian Indians, a lot of like Hispanics too, a lot of blacks. So it's far, far more diverse.
Yeah. Then there's also, we don't talk about this much, but Natomas, North Natomas area has a lot of new construction. So, and it's closer to the airport too. And it's along the I-5. So it's along a major highway. And yeah, the school systems there are actually decent too. So that's another area you guys can consider. And the average home price, it's in the like $500,000 range, somewhere around that. But you can find homes that are cheaper than that and homes that are more expensive than that.
I would say, for 500, 600.
Yeah.
But again, you're getting paid a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And you're getting a much bigger house over there. For what we pay for our house, you can get a mansion in Elk Grove.
And just to put some things into perspective, right? When we first moved to California, we were like, oh man, I was thinking our budget should be somewhere around like $500,000. I was like, there's no way we can afford anything more than that. But then when we started working at Kaiser, that's when I was like, okay, maybe we can stretch the budget a little bit. We could probably afford something more than that. And then we came across our house and we're like, okay, it's gonna be $697,000. How much does the monthly payments look like on a house like that? And when we crunched the numbers, we're like, okay, it's only gonna be like, at the time it was only like 21% of our take-home pay.
But then again, the interest rates are so high right now.
Yeah.
So I think, they're better off renting at the moment.
Yeah, so if you are looking to move to California or Sacramento region, you should think about renting first, because then you can also gauge the different neighborhoods, the different cities, to find out where you really want to live. And what we did was, that's exactly what we did. We rented in Roseville.
We rented first.
And for a good like 6 to 8 months, we were just like looking around, driving around all the different neighborhoods to find out where we would be interested in buying a home. And then I remember I came across a coworker of mine who said, have you checked out Sacramento? And this is coming from a guy.
He's a local, right?
No, this is Milan.
Yeah.
He was raised in Sacramento.
Yeah,
But he now lives like far north of Sacramento, like 2, maybe 3 hours away.
But this is coming from a native.
Yes, so it's coming from a native who now prefers to live in like the boondocks, like the suburbs, right? Like even far from the suburbs, like the countryside. But he said you should check out Sacramento because the homes are very unique over there. They're not like Roseville. Roseville is like cookie cutter homes.
The homes look all the same.
They all look the same.
Not much character.
Yeah, but if you drive around Sacramento, the city, around the midtown and downtown area, there's a lot of Victorian style homes. And
some parts look like San Francisco,
yeah.
Like, the neighborhood-wise, especially the Fat 40s. So I think the reason why we weren't open to moving to Sacramento is because one of, remember, his coworker, his friend said that, oh, don't go to Sacramento, it's not very good, blah, blah, blah. So we didn't really give it much thought.
Yeah.
Right?
And and even when I worked in Roseville, at Sutter Roseville, all of my coworkers said they avoided Sacramento. And I was like, is it really that bad? But then
small town minded, small town minded.
But then when I spoke with that coworker who was also working at Sutter Roseville, who told me I should check out Sacramento, after I drove through Sacramento, I was like, whoa, this is way different than where we live in Roseville. This is
we
way
fell
different.
in love. We drove through our neighborhood that time and we were looking at the homes and we were just, oh my God, this is so beautiful. But then we were looking at the home prices, babe. Remember, we were like, oh, there's no way we could afford to live here.
Yeah.
The houses were like 600, 700,000.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
We're like, oh no, this is just gonna be a dream of ours. Ain't no way we can afford to live here. I guess we'll just have to stick to Roseville, right?
Yeah. For us, it felt like, okay, this is as close to New York City life as we're going
As
to
it's gonna get, yeah.
Being that we already missed New York City so much. And it's funny because when we looked at our house, we must have seen like hundreds of homes. And then when we finally came across the model homes that were gonna end up being one of our homes.
It was not something like all the other homes in Sacramento.
Yeah.
So I was gonna mention that it seems like it's getting harder and harder to land a job here in Sacramento because, I mean, to tell you this, babe, do you remember your preceptee?
Yes.
So his preceptee is a family member of a coworker of mine. And then so she saw me today. She's like, oh, Monica, did you know this person works, with Jason now? And I was like, oh, really? That's really cool. Like, how long has she been a nurse? Where did she work? She's like, oh, she pretty much worked everywhere. It took her 3 years. 3 years to get into Kaiser. She tried for 3 years, babe.
It's crazy.
An ER nurse, 3 years.
Okay. I think something's wrong with that though.
Yeah.
No, I think in terms of the way you go about it, there has to be something wrong.
Okay, I don't know.
Yes, it should not take you 3 years to get a job at Kaiser.
I don't know why, but a lot of people were like, oh, it took me, it took me this much time to get in. I don't know.
Okay, I'll mention a couple of things about that. Okay, so first, if you want to work at Kaiser, I recommend that you apply to work at Kaiser, but you also apply to work at other hospitals. And if you don't get a job at Kaiser, at least you can get a job at another hospital. And don't be in a rush. Like, a lot of people seem to be very impatient. I mean, Monica and I, we didn't start working at Kaiser until 3-4 years into our careers, right? So just build up your resume, get your experience, make your money somewhere else.
Yeah,
while you're applying for Kaiser.
I want to address this comment. I saw this comment that really kind of made me a little bit sad. I felt bad for that person. So she works in a surgical unit. And she said that she's so burnt out. She want to quit right now. And she said, do you think I should just quit my job and move to California without a job lined up? And I'm just thinking, please don't do that. Because you just never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Please have a solid plan when you come here. A solid job offer.
When we first moved to California, I can't even imagine if we would have moved out here with no job lined up. We moved out here solely because of the reason that I had gotten a job offer.
He got a job offer, and our finances were already a bit in order, okay? Because our apartment was affordable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was a backup, but he was the main,
The breadwinner?
So Jason at that time was a breadwinner. I'm just the backup. So, but that girl also said that she has 6 months saving. I don't know what she meant by that. On which
6 months of savings.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's it could be.
Yeah.
It could be 6 months of saving in New York City versus like Idaho somewhere. That's very different.
Yeah.
She did say that, but I forgot which city she's from. I gotta look at that comment again.
And going back to the point that Monica said, it actually is getting harder to get a job in Sacramento. So let's say you move out here with no job prospects in mind, and all of a sudden you have 6 months of savings. That 6 months might disappear in no time because you're gonna be looking for work, you're gonna be paying your rent, and you're not gonna have any income coming in. So don't do anything like that. What I would say is you need to get a job wherever you're located, or if you're a new grad, at the very least, what I would do, and I tell this to everyone, apply for your license to both states. Apply wherever you're located and apply for California. I know this might be a little bit expensive at first, but do that so that you can then apply for jobs in both states, your local state, your home state, and in California. And when you're applying, whichever hospital gives you a job offer first, that's where you'll work. And if that hospital happens to be in Sacramento, then move. But if that hospital happens to be in your home state, don't move, but continue to apply while you work there.
So the friend that convinced us to move here, Tyrone, he didn't land a job at Kaiser right away. He worked at Dignity for 8 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 8 months. So when we came to Sacramento, Jason didn't get a job at Kaiser right away. He ended up in Sutter.
Yeah.
And it took me 3 months to get into Kaiser. And then so that person said she's been applying for a month. A month is not a long time at all. So just keep applying, because I'd be so terrified moving like from another city, like from coast to coast, without anything lined up. You know, six months saving, it's not a long time. Anything could happen.
And you know, I always tell this to people: be patient. Don't be in a rush, because when you're in a rush and you're impatient, that's when you make the wrong moves. Okay. I was never desperate for a job. Like I've never been desperate for a job. And when I applied to Kaiser, I applied because I wanted to make more money. But if it was gonna take me a year or 2 years to get this job, I wouldn't have been upset about that, because I still have a good, decent paying job with Sutter Roseville, and I really enjoyed working there. So I would have not been disappointed if it would have taken me longer to get a job at Kaiser. So yeah, and then I have this one person in the comment that was stalking us on like YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. I had to block her on every account because she said, "Why are you lying to these people? It's not true. You can't get a job right away. Like, these new grads are like never gonna be able to get a job out here in the Bay Area." And that's like, how can you say never? That's not true. I literally work with new grad nurses. And then, oh my gosh, if I only got into the conversation about what we've been hearing and seeing on Facebook, on our Facebook comment section over the videos we've been posting lately. So we never used to post videos on Facebook Shorts. Never. We never really did videos
We weren't really focused on Facebook. Facebook was just like, you know, whatever.
No.
But our Instagram is linked to Facebook. So whatever we post on Instagram gets carried over to Facebook. So anyways, a while back, I was telling Jason, I have this topic I want to talk about. And I said, I wanted to talk about Filipinos being so toxic, right? And I'm not just talking about it in the nursing sphere. I'm talking about just in general, like from my personal experience and seeing what my generation has gone through, just like growing up being Filipino. So Jason was like, "Oh, no, don't talk about them like that, you know, because he works with Filipinos and he adores them, right? You know, he works with a lot of titas, and these titas like practically adopted him." So I said, "Okay, I'm gonna honor your wish. You know, I'm not gonna say anything, okay, even though this is like coming from me and I have more say in it, you know." It backfired on him so quick from all those negativity in the comments. It's mostly Facebook though. And it was just like, yeah, those are my peoples, okay? And I told you so.
Yeah, I've been having to defend the crap out of Monica in every single comment.
I already knew that's how they are. They're just so toxic. And you know, I'm just so glad my coworkers, you know, it's not like that at work. My Filipino coworkers are like the sweet titas, you know, because being bullied and being so toxic at my job is not acceptable, okay? That's what I love about the culture of my job. You know, they do not tolerate bullies. But when I worked in New York, oh my God, because they let this happen in New York, especially in New York Presbyterian. My Filipino coworkers used to make me cry. Okay? So, and then growing up with Filipinos, so I already knew what our culture is like. But I'm not saying every Filipino is toxic like that, but just in general. And you know, my people at my age, you go to a party, a tita will come up to you and be like, "Hey, you gained so much weight." That's what I'm talking about. This topic's trending a lot on TikTok now because a lot of us Filipinos in my generation are talking about it more. So I feel like it's a little bit more acceptable to talk about it.
Yeah, but okay, so referring to the comments, right? Monica posted this video about a conversation that she had with her coworker, where her coworker was shocked because Monica told her that she plans to move to New York City. And her coworker was like, "Do you know how much we're about to be making?"
She was like, "Bitch, you know how much we're about to get paid?" Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second. That coworker of mine, you guys need to be careful too. Like, I know our YouTube sphere, you guys are the best. You guys are so positive. But a lot of my followers and friends on my socials, a lot of them are my coworkers. They're charge nurses. They're A&Ms. So just be careful when you write negative comments out there because they read it too. So anyways, oh yeah. So that coworker that was like, "Bitch." Okay, she works as a nurse, per diem nurse at Kaiser where I'm at, and she's also an A&M in UCD, and she owns an airplane. Do you have a coworker that's a nurse who owns an airplane, babe?
Actually, I don't. Okay, so I just found one of the comments. One of the comments was, I worked for Kaiser for 17 years. These rates are inaccurate, right? That's what somebody said. But my response to this one person was, okay, first of all, I'm like, okay, here we go again, because it keeps coming from Filipinos, right? What I said was, you work for Kaiser and you don't even know that you can do a simple search on our web intranet, which is called My HR. And in that search bar there, you can type in labor contracts and find the labor contracts, the union contracts to every single state and every single union for nurses. I said, you're telling me that you didn't know that you can do that and find out that the nurses in Northern California get paid more than you do in Southern California? The fact that you don't know that is the reason why Southern California nurses are so underpaid. And I said that what you should do instead of telling me that I'm inaccurate is maybe look up this information so that you can equip yourself and your coworkers to renegotiate better rates, better wages the next time you guys have a contract negotiation. And then there's people that called Monica's video misleading, misinformation. It's like the new fake news thing that they say now. Like, instead of saying fake news, they're all calling it misinformation. I'm like,
instead of just doing their research, you know?
And this was just literally a conversation that Monica had with a coworker, and Monica was just simply stating what her rate was. How are you calling it misinformation if she's talking about a personal experience that she had or a personal conversation that she had with a coworker?
It's a waste of time, because once these nurses realize that they can move somewhere and get paid better, you know, I'm like balls deep in seniority right now. If I would have, in 2017, if I would have never believed what his coworker was saying and that we didn't do our own research, we'd still be in New York right now.
That's true, yeah.
How would we be able to leverage our lifestyle if we didn't do our own research?
Imagine if I would have told my coworker, you're lying to me. I don't believe you. This is all misinformation that you're giving me. I don't believe a thing that you're saying. Imagine, we'd still be in New York right now living paycheck to paycheck with a negative net worth probably.
But honestly, it's just so simple as doing research. Now, the problem is when you Google, because I did a little bit of Googling. If you Google Kaiser Permanente per diem rate in NorCal, it's not accurate. That's the problem. Now, if you really want to make sure you want to get the right information, you would dig in a little deeper.
And instead of labeling somebody a liar, ask questions.
Ask around, you know?
Ask questions.
And now by the time they'll realize that, I'm gonna be 10 years in Kaiser. They won't be able to get in anymore because everybody else knows this information. Everybody else is trying to get in.
And I ran into a coworker, actually he's not a coworker, but he works in the same hospital as me now. He said he moved to California because of the videos, right? And now he's working in the same hospital in the med-surg floor. And he came across me the other day as I was walking into the building, and he was like, hey, I moved here because of you. He left a comment in our last video. And I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that people actually are doing this. Like, they're listening to
I love
us.
it.
It's crazy. People are actually moving here and having a better life as a result. Because he told me, I asked him, I was like, so, was I right about how much money you could make? And he said, yes, absolutely. So, I'm telling you guys.
Recruitment success, I love it. I love it so much.
It works, okay? But I know a long time ago, one of our viewers, he's been one of our followers for a very long time. I believe his name is Derek. I don't know his exact name, but many viewers have said this before, that we're gonna oversaturate the market out here in Sacramento. And
I have a really good response to that.
They're in a way, they may be right. They may be right.
I have a good response.
And unfortunately, it's not our intention to do so. However, I think part of the reason why we're so well-staffed now, more than ever before, is because of that. Oh, and you know what? I should mention something else. I was speaking with a nurse the other day. I don't want to mention this nurse's name, but the nurse told me that they were going to end up applying to work in another Kaiser hospital because we are no longer getting enough overtime in the hospital that I work in. And I asked this nurse, I said, why would you do that? And she said, because she needs it. She can't survive without the overtime. And I tell this is a nurse that made $550,000 last year. $550,000. If moving to another hospital to pick up overtime is what you think is gonna be your solution to the debt and your spending habits, then it's not a solution. is not gonna solve your problems. You need to start with your personal spending issue before you think about picking up any overtime or making additional income. Because I know so many nurses, they cannot survive without overtime because they are living their life as if their income is up here when in fact it's down here. So stop living your life as if you're one of the Joneses, that everything you buy is to impress other people. That's why Monica doesn't even own any luxury bags.
I don't own anything designer, guys.
No
It's just
designer
never
bags.
really been, it's not me. But I do want to go to Bora Bora.
Yeah. What we do spend money on is...
It's priorities.
Yeah.
We have different priorities, you know.
What we do spend money on is lavish vacations, or just vacations, really, because we don't do too many lavish vacations. Yeah, we travel. We love to travel. We have not traveled, though, much in the last year, because the year before that, we were overwhelmed with the amount of traveling that we were doing. And we'll talk about this in future videos, but we spent like $15,000 on our trip to the Maldives. That was in 2022. And that year we had traveled to like 7 or 8 destinations.
Yeah.
So the following year we were like, okay, we're gonna take it easy. That was in 2023. I said, we gotta focus on the business, which worked in our favor because that in 2023, we tripled our business revenue compared to 2022. Okay, so, and this year we're hoping to at least double it, if not triple it, but I would love to 10x that.
Guys, help fund my Bora Bora trip.
Yeah. Okay, so if you guys want another video, let us know what kind of video you want us to talk about, and we'll make that for you. And
yeah, whatever you guys want, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, and I would love to do videos where we're not just in the car talking, but if you like this format, let us know, and we'll continue it.
If you guys want us to film the neighborhoods, if you guys want us to film like the malls or like things to do, I wanted to show you guys our favorite things that we like to do in Sac, like just local stuff, okay? Because everything else is far.
And if you want us to drive around the neighborhoods of the hospitals and to the hospitals, we can do that for you also, so you can see what the hospitals look like. And let us know what kind of format you guys want us to make it in. Whether you want us to just walk around the neighborhoods, drive around the neighborhoods, talk about it in our car, we're open to any ideas and suggestions you guys have. All right, so see you guys on the next video.
Ciao.
Bye.